Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Today I wanted to talk about all of the people through the years who have reached out to me about moving to Portugal, trying to get in there, talking about what day-to-day life is like, immigration, you name it. I wanted to talk through, there's four themes or four things that's come up in the 5 years we were there, and in the consulting that I still do, and questions that I talk through with potential people that are going to move and become expats or immigrants into Portugal. Here are the four things that I think people should think about avoiding or spending more time thinking about and doing. So let's get into it. I also want to get comments from you. When you moved to Portugal, what were some of the things that the gotchas, the things that you wish you had spent more time thinking about or doing? Because I want to see if these four items might be similar or dissimilar to what you've experienced when you moved and immigrated to Portugal. So, first one, not using an attorney or not using legal help when it comes to the immigration process. Now, you don't necessarily need one to create a NIF and a bank account, things like that. There are attorneys who do that. There are several third party services that do that. But if you come to Portugal for a scouting trip, which if you're going to move there, you should be investing in probably a couple of trips just to make sure it is the right place for you, but not using legal counsel. Most people moving to Portugal do not speak the language. So finding a Portuguese attorney that knows the lingo, the immigration lingo, and how AMA works is very important. You can do it on your own, and there are many success stories where people said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the steps myself through my own country, the embassy, Portuguese embassy in my country. I'll figure it out." And that's true, it works. But often you see a lot of posts and comments after the fact going, "God, I wish I had used somebody," just because there's enough snags, and there's maybe a handful of people each year. And when I say a handful, literally 5 to 10 that have an immigration process that went without a hitch and was the best thing and no issues. All the rest of us have hurdles and obstacles to the point where there will be one or two times where you question, do I really want to move there? Or does Portugal really want me to move? Because it seems like they're making it awful cumbersome to try to get into the country. Having an attorney, a solicitor, is something that will really help ease your mind and help you through those doldrums, those bad days, or those moments where you just kind of are not sure if you want to do it. So, first one, not using an attorney is a theme, and I think get one. It will help you in the long run. It'll be worth the investment that you pay that attorney. Next up, immigration, underestimating the immigration timeline. That's along with getting a solicitor, but often I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that, well, we were selling our place or putting our place in our home country on the market. It sold as faster than we thought, or maybe not as fast. It just became very difficult because, okay, now we're moving to Portugal. The immigration timeline, either at the consulate in your home country, is not what it didn't manage your expectations. It was sooner or later than you thought. So you're trying to deal with housing in your home country. And then the immigration appointment on the Portuguese side, once you get into Portugal, it it went right according to plan, or it went longer, or you have to reschedule, which becomes a pain, and that's a video I'm making as well. But underestimating the timeline, and it's hard to get a true estimate because once you decide I'm moving to Portugal and you get things started in your home country, then you have to try to figure out and guesstimate when do you put your house up for sale, or when is your apartment, when is your lease up? So when can you try to time that to where hopefully you don't spend too much time living out of a hotel room or someone's friends or family until you get that appointment in your home country to where you can get into Portugal. And then likewise, when you're into Portugal, Making sure that if you have an appointment in Portugal, stick with it. If not, just realize if you have to reschedule in Portugal, it may not be at the same location. Maybe you move to Lisbon, but your appointment's in Porto. Maybe you move to the Algarve and your appointment's in Terceira, one of the islands in the Azores. So be flexible with it, because the immigration timeline it's kind of like an accordion, and you just have to be careful and you have to go with it. So underestimating that is a big concern that I see in a lot of Reddit posts, Facebook groups when they talk about some of the frustrations that they have. Number 3, along with that, I kind of talked about this in this last point, underestimating the timeline it takes to secure an apartment, a 1-year lease or a multi-year lease in Portugal. Your visas are all dependent upon getting at least a 12-month lease. Now, if you're buying property, then you're going to have property, so that's a different situation. But the lion's share of you, 90% or more of the people moving, are going to look to rent, and they're not necessarily going to have a friend that they can stay on their couch or rent a room out for. They have to find a place. And that timeline, it could be you find a place and within a couple of months you have an agreement in place and you're able to move in. More often than not, it takes you longer to find a place, because what you want versus what you want to pay are usually 2 completely different numbers. Well, I'm going to go to Portugal. It's going to be affordable because we all have made videos about how affordable it is. In much of the country, that is a true statement. But if you want all of the amenities that you're coming from and want with your home, that you have in your home country, that may be a little more challenging to find that. And I will say, because I've made many videos about this, and living in Lisbon taught me this, finding the place that you want at the price that you want is almost impossible. You got to give up something. Either you're going to have, meaning you have to give up money in your bank account and spend more to get the place you want, or you're going to have to give up because to find the amenities that you want, often you're not willing to pay that price. You need to figure out what you're willing to give up. There are people that have made 4 to 5 scouting trips and have taken up to 2 years to find property while they're working on their immigration as well. So underestimating how long it's going to take for you to find an apartment, a home, a farm, whatever it is, a business, just that's going to take longer. And in more cases than not, it's just become a sore spot and a point of frustration. And then lastly, this encompasses everything that I'm talking about here, and it's kind of a general statement, but it's often one that my parents were teachers when I was growing up, so when I was a little kid anyway. Not doing your homework. Number 4 is not doing your homework. There's really no excuse in this time and age, because when we were researching Portugal in 2017 and 2018, the only thing we found on YouTube was, it's the greatest thing ever. It's the greatest decision you're ever going to make. There was not even any level-headed, like, here's the pros and cons. It's all good, because they didn't want to get yelled at by Portuguese or other people if they were critical of the country. So I tried to make over the years some videos that were a little more level-headed, straightforward, no BS. And where I feel like the government fails expats, be able to point that out. So where I'm going with that is, there is so much information out there on YouTube, on other sites, certainly blogs from people that have written about their experience, lots of Facebook groups that you can look at, Reddit, and other places that talk through the immigration process, apartment finding and some of the challenges, issues with the language. There's really no reason why you should move to Portugal and have any real gotchas, because even smaller communities, people have made content and written about living in small rural areas as well as living in the big cities like a Lisbon, like we did, or Porto. The islands, there are a number of people that do have written articles and do YouTube on Madeira. The Algarve, beautiful place to live. My goodness, lots of people that do content there. So you have more resources than ever to give you more of a full picture of what you're getting into. The good, the bad, and the indifferent of moving into the country. So those are the 4 areas. And I think just, you can research and go down so many rabbit holes now that you couldn't in 2017, 2018, which is awesome. So please reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to help people and still do that, even though I'm not there anymore. And these are 4 areas that seem to be the biggest pain points when people email me. These are the common threads. And when I look at other people's content and other groups that I'm a part of, that I try to help people, these are the biggest sources of frustration. So wrapping it up, do your homework. Do as much research as possible. Get to Portugal, and part of that research is get to Portugal on a 2 or 3 occasions. The off season, the high tourist season, and try to not commit to one place. That's my last nugget I'm going to give to you. Don't commit to Lisbon. Don't commit to Porto, Madeira, Algarve, Lagos, Évora, Coimbra. Go a few times. And if you go a few times, commit, get a year contract, but maybe not commit to life. Don't necessarily build property unless you're absolutely sure. That's a small smidgen of a group. But go, get into Portugal, spend a year there. You might decide that you want to move someplace else in Portugal, and then a year after that, find someplace else. It might take a few years to find where you really feel comfortable and get the Portuguese experience that you want, whether you're working or retired. As always, I hope these videos help you, and I thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your travels.